You're in California?
I'm in Arizona.
Arizona now, okay.
Yeah, just got back like this second.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to go off video just for a minute so that I can settle down and set my phone up somewhere. Okay,
Sure.
and then I'll join again.
Max, let me ask, do we have anybody from Parks here yet? We're expecting.
I see Wes so far.
Who?
Wes Hamilton. I can promote him to a panelist.
Yeah, promote him.
I see Dan Sullivan was in the
yes.
I see him as well, yeah.
You might want to add him to a panelist so he can present.
He is a panelist. He's our presenter tonight. And we also supposedly have John Harold coming and Steve Simon.
I don't see either of them yet, but I actually spoke with John earlier today. So
okay, well,
he should be here.
Maybe we should get started, everybody. Because Roberta, you're going to make the presentation first, is that right? Most of our members are here.
Correct. So
let me, okay, go ahead.
You want to introduce yourself?
You
want to introduce yourself? And
yeah, I was just going to say, welcome everybody to the Parks and Environment Committee. I'm Barbara Adler, co-chair, and my co-chair is here from Arizona, Natasha Cosme. We are going to start tonight with a brief presentation from Roberta Seamer from the Budget and Strategy Committee, and then we will go on to our regular agenda. So Roberta, you have the floor.
Thanks so much. So Parks and Environment are one of our favorite committees from the Budget and Strategy, because you always do your homework. But so this year we are asking you to contact all your stakeholders, and which includes the Park Department, your elected officials, to go over what your district needs are and what your budget priorities are. The budget, as you know, last year we did 20 capital and 20 expense, and we also sent your other priorities over that to the Parks Department. So we'd like all this to be collected by your June meeting, and then you vote on it at your July meeting, and then in September at the steering committee, we will have a discussion, and we'll vote on our list of priorities that we'll present to the full board at the October board meeting. Last year, your report were multiple pages. This year, we're asking that each district needs, and we will send you a protocol for doing it in May. But this year, we're going to ask that each item, whether it's a playground or it's a walkway in the park, whatever it is, that you write 300 to 800 to 1,000 words specific to that item as to why it's a need. We'd also like, I'm going to just give you an example. So if you were talking about the Frederick Douglass Playground, it would be nice to have a PTA group that parents that use the playground, or the principal of the school, or the Children's Aid Society write a letter explaining why that playground is important. And we can put that into the documentation. We can also include photographs. We haven't figured out how yet, but we've been told by city planning that we could include photographs. So, you know, if something's in really bad disrepair and you can get a good photograph of it, that would be great. Are there any questions?
It seems like we're still working on last year's district needs. We're starting again.
We just finished the responses, and we'll send you a copy hopefully by the end of the week.
Yeah.
The other piece of it is that the mayor's budget is now in committee hearings at City Council. And you don't have to be there because they're all recorded. So, and they're also cliff notes. So as I get the cliff notes, I will send them to the correct committees. Right. So rather than listening to a 2 or 3 hour hearing, you may want to just read the cliff notes. And we are getting those from Gail Brewer's office.
Great. Anybody have any questions for Roberta? No, we may down the line, Roberta, but I guess not right now.
Around, the committee's around, we're happy to come to meetings, we're happy to answer questions, we're just happy to get the budget process going, and we will be, as we get more information, we'll share it with you. We like to share.
That'd be great.
I'm gonna stop my video just because it saves memory.
Okay, so we'll get started with our program. We don't have Steve Simon here yet, do we? Or John Harold?
We don't as of yet. As I said, we do have Matt and Wes from Parks, but not.
Okay, well, I'd like to introduce Daniel Sullivan, who I believe is making a presentation tonight on the reconstruction of the pavement in Cherry Walk in Riverside Park. Daniel, are you there?
Hello.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Good evening, everyone. Shall I begin the presentation?
Yes, I think so. That would be great.
Okay. My name is Dan Sullivan. I'm a landscape architect for New York City Parks Department. And is my screen being shared?
You have permission. You have capabilities to do so.
Okay, let me do that. Okay. So let me just adjust my screen a tad bit. Okay. So again, my name is Dan Sullivan. I will be presenting Riverside Park Cherry Walk. This is a state of good repair pavement reconstruction project. And what that really means is it's geared towards repairing the greenway in kind. So replacing the asphalt pavement and redoing the greenway striping and painted symbols to make it safer, really. There's a lot of cracks and bumps along the greenway, so we're just geared towards replacing in kind within the same footprint and making it safer, smoother for all users. The budget is 1.8 million, and the project size is a little over 2 acres. The goals of the project are to reconstruct existing asphalt pavement in kind, eliminate tripping hazards, and minimize site disturbance. The scope of work is to reconstruct the greenway in kind, and there will be ongoing coordination, very close coordination with John Harold and Margaret Bracken and the Riverside Park administration for stakeholder outreach. Everyone knows where Riverside Cherry Walk is located, along the Hudson River in Riverside Park, surrounded by parkland mostly. There is a flood risk. We can't really do much about it, so this is really a replacement in kind. Surrounding land use, again, is primarily park space. This is a landmark designation. However, we've already submitted to the Landmarks Preservation Commission, and our scope of work has been determined by them as exempt from permitting, as this is just really ordinary repairs and maintenance. This would be considered a secret type 2 action, not subject to review as defined under section replacement, rehabilitation, and reconstruction of an existing structure or facility such as pavement. As far as environmental reviews, this project work zone is located near estuarine and marine deepwater Hudson River, and a New York State DEC tidal wetland permit has already been issued for this project. As mentioned before, there will be ongoing coordination with the River Park administrator for stakeholder outreach to make sure that the detours for this reconstruction project will be handled appropriately, and we can bring users safely around this park while it's closed. I should mention construction duration for this project should be pretty quick compared to other capital projects. We are forecasting approximately 3 to 4 months to reconstruct this this whole 1.5 mile stretch. So that's pretty impressive. That's what we're shooting for. Construction probably won't take place for another 1.5 years, so that's probably in fall. So looking at the site, approximately 54% of the path is in fair to poor condition with some surface cracks. In these locations, the asphalt top course will be reconstructed in kind. Now, the greenway painted symbols and striping are fading as well, so they will also be replaced to match the recently renovated southern pathways. And I'll show you photos of that later on in the presentation. Here's a profile of the existing asphalt top course, approximately 1.5 inches to be replaced in kind. The base of this asphalt is in pretty good condition, so we want to really try to minimize site disturbance and really only address what needs to be fixed. Another view of surface cracks and faded greenway striping. Approximately 25% of the asphalt path is in pretty poor condition with major cracks. Here, the full depth asphalt pavement will be replaced in kind. And here's just another view of what that asphalt looks like in very poor condition. A previous contract, MG114M, went ahead and removed some of these major cracks and replaced it with concrete. In these sections, we'll just run a thin layer of top course right on top of that to make it look more consistent with the rest of the park, as asphalt pathways are the primary material for those pathways. Approximately 19% of the path is in fair condition with no cracks. The asphalt top course will be replaced placed on grade in these locations. And then there's 2% of the path that was recently reconstructed under that contract I just mentioned, and that can remain. The staging area and site access will be located just south of where our site is, along 97th Street, in the parking lot within the park, and the route will be on existing paved path. And there will be a flagger to help accompany any construction vehicles to make sure that there are no pedestrian conflicts. So again, just to run through the scope of work, we're working from West 99th Street to St. Clair Place. That's about a 1.5 mile stretch. St. Clair Place is essentially the equivalent to West 125th Street, so about 26, 25 blocks. And the scope of work is 25% resurface the path with the full depth asphalt, 54% will resurface the path with asphalt top course, 1.5 inch depth, 19% will place asphalt top course pavement on existing path, and 2% of the path will remain with no disturbance. And of course, we will update the greenway painted striping and symbols to match the rest of the park. And here's just a closer view of how we've gone through and very meticulously analyzed the path and identified areas where replacement will occur. And looking at proposed materials, we'll have greenway striping and symbols that match the recently renovated portions in the just south of this path. And again, we'll be working closely with the park administrators to make sure that it matches. Are there any questions?
Matt, I see Andrea as well. Matt,
I was just gonna say, you could add Margaret Bracken as a panelist. She's still an attendee.
Who's that? Oh, Margaret Bracken. Got it. Margaret, if you're listening, you'll just click the little prompt and you can be ushered right in. There you go.
okay, Ken, Mark, and Polly, and then Daniela.
Okay, maybe we could go back to the speaker view. Or do you want to keep it up? Keep the presentation up?
Whatever you guys want to do.
Okay. Well, I can see you in a small screen now, so I just like to see the person I'm talking to. This is really great news that it's finally going to be done. This board has been advocating for the resurfacing of the Cherry Walk, I think, since about 2015, when it was at about 15 years and was really showing its age then. So it's really great to see that it's finally happening. I just got a few questions. I assume there are no plans to widen it. It is not wide enough for the current traffic that it's getting, but are you planning on widening?
No, there are several site constraints. Very large matured trees and smaller trees too, and some pretty severe slopes on either sides of the path. So we're really just replacing it in kind and keeping the footprint. I should add, had we expanded it, that would have complicated. DEC may not have even accepted it. So we're pretty limited in this area.
Okay. Will you be, I mean, a lot of the problem with the cracks has been upheavals from roots. Will you be digging down to sort of get to the root of the problem, so to speak?
We will identify any problem areas as we excavate. I should say any excavation adjacent to trees will be hand. So we will try to minimize disturbing those tree roots. So what we typically do is we remove the asphalt. We'll have an arborist on site. We'll take a close look, examine those roots, and oftentimes what we'll do is carefully excavate on either side of the root, and we'll put crushed stone about 6 inches, 12 inches on either side of that root. So that way, hopefully the root is looking for air and water. It will grow laterally as opposed to vertically, and they will help stay lower and not raise as much. The other thing that we can do is add root pins, tree root pins, and they're just very large pins that you stick into the ground every 18 inches or so, and that can also help hold the root down and prevent it from rising up.
Interesting. Okay. And I just got two more questions. The striping, I assume from the picture that you showed, you're going to be identifying sort of like cyclists going north and cyclists going south, and also you're going to clearly demarcate the section for runners and walkers, because that's currently a real problem because the striping is worn away and nobody knows where to go. And so a lot of times walkers or runners are in the cycling area.
It'll be dedicated northbound and dedicated southbound. For like the path will be split 50-50.
But will you still have a section for runners and walkers?
No, it has been decided, Riverside Park has decided that that is no longer, it's safer to do it this way. Where you have dedicated northbound and southbound, where all users share each lane.
So are you sort of discouraging people from walking there as opposed to biking?
Absolutely not. No, it's just share northbound and southbound.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, I'm not sure I totally agree with that, but I'll think about it. And my last question is, I know this probably isn't under your purview, but for other people who are on the call, when you did the repairs last year that you alluded to, which were really great and very necessary and made a big difference. The detour signage, the route was not ideal and the signage was really terrible. I got lost trying to find it, and I'm pretty familiar with Riverside Park. The parks really needs to up their game on the signage this time. And you've got a year and a half to get it right.
Exactly, and we'll work closely with anyone interested to ensure that it's very crystal clear. So happy to do that.
Okay, and maybe you could run by us or groups in the bike community what the proposed detour route is, just to get some comments. That would be great.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we'll certainly do that. I mean, I think we made some mistakes last time around, and it's definitely a really complicated route. So we're happy to, to share everything we have with you and, invest the time in trying to sort of make improvements this time around. It's a complicated route, though, unfortunately. It's less than ideal, but it's what we have.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Margaret.
Okay, I'm going to go to Mark.
Barbara, if I could just add that I think we learned a lot after the last situation with the detour signs, and we're going to do our best not to repeat the mistakes from the past. And I just want to make an offer to Ken in recognition of all of your advocacy over the years for this project. I want you to be the first one to bike up this repaved Cherry Walk. I want to make sure that you're there so you can inaugurate this repaved Cherry Walk.
Steve, I will take you up on that with great gusto. Thank you.
Mark, just before you begin, I just wanted to introduce Steve Simon to our new district manager, Max Vandervliet. So Max, you want to just wave your hand so he sees you right away?
Yes, actually, we were speaking a little earlier via email.
Great. Okay.
Yes. Hey.
Okay, good. All right.
Oh, hold it. Let me.
Thank you.
Let me turn on my video. What is this? All right.
There he is.
This is unfortunately this is what I look like. Okay.
Really?
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Mark, you're on.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're working for one of the best boards there is.
I agree. I absolutely agree. Thank you.
So thanks very much for the presentation and for the work that is to come. Ken hit on a lot of the points that I was concerned about too. So I'll just hone in on a couple of smaller details rather than repeating. I was grateful to hear the plan for the tree roots as it currently exists and has existed for many years. There are portions of the Cherry Walk path that more resemble a mogul field on a ski slope than a bike lane. So anything that we can do to keep those tree roots from doing the same thing again, it will be welcome. It is, I'm sure, a very challenging thing since we want the mature trees to remain and the other trees to become mature trees. I also have to add with Ken that I'm a little concerned about the idea of bikes of the shared path north and shared path south signage. As it currently exists, it's hard enough to get two bikes to pass one another and two runners to pass one another at the same time. If folks are walking more than two abreast, And I'm one of those guys that thinks that there ought to be a video at JFK that tells people how to walk on our sidewalks. I'm just concerned that there'll be invitations to try to edge around one another on a path that really isn't big enough for it. I leave that in your capable hands, but I'm very concerned about the safety aspect of that as well as the implementation aspect. The last thing is that you highlighted a staging area, and forgive me, it looked an awful lot like part of the staging area for one of the Rotunda projects. Are they sharing the staging area, or is it a different parking lot?
Mark, that's actually, so what we're proposing for this project is actually a portion, and this would just be a portion of the northern parking lot. So the northern parking lot is the one that is actually paved. The southern parking lot is the one that we have had conversations with the Rotunda staging, for I mean, that's unconfirmed, but the possibility that they might use a portion of that. So it's two different parking lots, north and south of the tennis courts. This one is the northern parking lot, the one that's, currently active as a parking lot.
Got it. So then I guess the only other thing is that we need to tell the hospitals that, because their ambulances seem to hang out there as a place to hang out waiting for their next call. So maybe we just need to give them a heads up, because this is obviously a very important project.
The staging will only be in a portion of it. It'll still be open and active, but we want it to stay open.
Yep. And my final point is kudos for making this a 4 or 5 month project. That is really a terrific accomplishment on your guys' part and shouldn't be overlooked in all the other good aspects of this. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments and support.
Okay, Polly, Daniela, and then I'd like to call on Peter Arnstein, who's in the attendees.
Yes, hello. Thank you for the presentation. You did mention that there was flooding, possibly that there was nothing you could do about flooding. And I noticed in one of the slides that the path looks pretty close to the water. I only saw like rocks. So my question is did the DEC discuss any barriers that they might put there in case of flooding? Because it would be a shame after you spend the $1.8 million for a flood to come along and basically destroy everything. So did they mention anything about installing some kind of barriers along that route?
No, what we've done is, a previous contract, the one I mentioned, MG-114, that was a Superstorm Sandy reconstruction project that went ahead and analyzed this whole stretch of land that borders the river. And they went ahead and repaired any damaged areas. So it should be pretty resilient. And also I should say, asphalt allows water to move through it, either upwards or downwards. So it's actually a quite resilient material for this type of condition. So I foresee it lasting several years, at least 2 decades.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Daniela.
Hi, yep, I'm just mostly curious about the timing of the work. I know you had mentioned that 3 to 5 months window, but do you anticipate closing it off like by sections or the entire 1.5 mile stretch all at once?
We would do the entire stretch at once. That allows the contractor to really get in and get out. So yeah, and I think the thinking is that we would do fall. I understand it's probably heavily used in summer and spring. So fall might be the ideal time, but we can work with the community on timing.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Having been part of many running groups in the city, I know that the running paths are particularly popular leading up to the New York City Marathon. So just to the extent that that can be avoided, that time frame leading up to it, I think it's better just because the other areas like the parks tend to be congested wherever there's running paths. So it's just something to think about.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, Peter, are you there? Peter Arnstein?
I'm pressing the button that's allowing him to talk. He should be good in a second.
Okay.
Thanks. Hi.
Hi.
So I wanted to mention that Margaret Bracken, who's with you, is going to be giving a talk to the Bloomingdale Neighborhood History Group and to anybody that would like to join it on the 27th of April about flowering trees. And this was originally sort of thought of as trying to find out a little bit more about the history of the introduction of cherry trees. But it has been expanded, I believe, and she can tell us better, I'm sure, to a number of different flowering trees. And we're really looking forward to it. It'll be 6:30 on a Wednesday, April 27th, I believe. Is that, I hope that she can confirm that with, that I don't have that way off base. It's the same day, I believe, as the Grant's Tomb anniversary. But in any case.
And
Thanks.
it's also the day after Frederick Law Olmsted's birthday. So it's a lot of birthdays then. Yes, so it will be, as you all know, we have a lot of flowering trees in the spring. We're coming up for our best time of year. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that and look at different species.
Thank you, Margaret.
That's wonderful. Okay, Natasha and Elizabeth.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to confirm that the start date would be this fall. Can you just confirm that?
No, I can't, unfortunately. It's really up in the air. Our procurement process is quite long. It takes about 9 months to get the contract through procurement, and then we have bidding and then awarding. So ideally, it would be fall next year, but I can't really give you a hard time for when it's going to start.
Okay. And I also just wanted to echo what a few other people have said about the safety issues around having a shared path north-south. There have been many, many conflicts between bikers and pedestrians, and I feel that that should be either reconsidered, or maybe somebody on the call can explain the thinking behind that, like this reversal of the policy of having a clearly demarcated subpath between bikers and pedestrians, and now just moving on to just one dedicated northbound and one dedicated southbound path for everyone to share. So maybe somebody could speak to that a little bit.
Well, I think the striping that is currently in place and is fading on Cherry Walk is from more than 20 years ago, from the initial construction. And that does sort of designate, pedestrian versus bike area. But, as I think Ken said, it's not sort of directional. So since that point, Parks Department have worked on our markings, universally, citywide. And typically we don't have a designated pedestrian walkway. I mean, typically it is a shared path. In this particular case, our thinking is it's really not wide enough. It's not wide enough to sort of differentiate between, a lane for pedestrians in one direction, a lane for bikes in one direction. It's just, if it were wider, then I think we would have been more able to consider that. But it was really, not, we didn't have the width to really accommodate that. And it isn't something that, we typically do. I do notice, in my personal usage of it, that regardless of how wide a path is, and we see this all over the park, regardless of how wide an asphalt path is, a lot of runners do actually make a desire line along the edge of the path. So I think regardless of how wide that, it's going to be, a lot of walkers and runners are going to prefer, especially on the western side, to walk, off the asphalt.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Elizabeth?
Sure. So thank you, John and Margaret. It's been a pleasure to work with you for all these years on the Parks and Environment Committee. Also, Daniel, it's great to hear your presentation, and Steve Simon, of course. I want to echo Polly on her environmental issues that she raised. I have two just really brief questions. One is just if you could let us know sort of what the situation is with how this is being funded and what you anticipate future funding needs being for the Cherry Walk and for this particular project? And then secondly, I'd be really curious to hear, this project extends beyond our borders on Community Board 7 into others north of us. So I'd be curious to hear how other boards and people have reacted, and would love to hear those thoughts as well. Thank you.
Yes, this project is a capital project, and it has mayoral funding. And we have already presented to the neighboring community board, and they have approved it.
Doug?
Yes.
Hi. I thank you. I haven't been down there this winter, which is shame on me. The question is just Cherry Walk right now fully operable, or this has all been rerouted? Or is this open now?
Yes, yeah, it's open.
Okay, so the question that I have is, I understand that there's a long time frame until the substantial part of this work is done, and I know that you're not sure if it's going to begin in the fall. Has there been any thought to, and I realize this is all, it's more money, but it seems like it would be a minimal amount of money, to provide some striping prior to the major work and restripe it again? Because in a year and a half is an awfully long period of time to have this fading lack of striping. Have you given any thought to doing that?
In order to be capitally eligible, we have to look at lifespans of these projects, and something like that, the amount of money and effort that it would cost, I don't think it would be capitally eligible. Something that would only last a year and a half, unfortunately.
Yeah. Daniel, it would not be capitally eligible, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't consider the idea. So we'll take that back and discuss it among ourselves tomorrow. And
thank you very much. And again, I'll add to the concern that Ken, Mark, and Natasha have just regarding conflict. It does. Anytime I've ridden it, there is a lot of potential for conflict. So I just wanted to add my voice to the concern. Thank you very much.
Hey, I just want to say before you Parks people leave, I think that are some people on the committee who have some questions, so please don't run away. And Ken, you have the last question.
Thank you. Yeah, just to follow up, I was wondering if Community Board 9 had expressed any concerns about the change in the striping. And I think it's a great suggestion of Doug's. And an advantage would be you could stripe it the way you're considering striping it and see how it goes for a year, and then you'd have to do it all over again anyway. The problem with the advantage of the way it is now, or when it's properly striped now, is that everybody knows where they're supposed to be. Runners and walkers are over on the western edge, and cyclists are over to the east. And it's a fairly effective demarcation. I'm afraid that now people are not going to know where they're supposed to be. Walkers and runners are going to be on both sides, straying into where the bikes are. And it's a 1.5 mile straightaway for cyclists. They build up a lot of speed. You get cyclists of many different abilities. So I personally think it's kind of dangerous what's being envisioned.
Okay. Natasha, did you have another question?
No, I'm sorry. I forgot
Yeah,
to take
okay.
it down.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the first question of Steve, Simon, and maybe some others can chime in if you know anything about the multi-use courts that are being built, presumably in Riverside Park.
So
when you say multi-use courts, do you mean the surface that we're putting down at 105th Street by the swing ring?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
It's actually, when we say multi-use courts, we're putting a surface down there. It's a topical surface a resilient surface that will go on top of the existing concrete pavement that will be used for junior tennis, pickleball, volleyball, so it's really not a kind of major, change to the existing usage or configuration of the recreation area there at 105th Street.
Okay, there was some concern expressed by some people that there may be a charge for the courts, the use of the courts.
No, absolutely not. I mean, that we wouldn't do that in any area of the park. And this is only, the concrete that's down there they're 5x5 concrete pavers. They're 85 years old. They're a little bit uneven. So we're just putting, a topical surface down just to make it a little bit more kind of resilient and more regular. And, we've a lot of people have expressed a desire for pickleball. So it'll be used for pickleball. It'll be used for junior tennis, multiple uses. And we will not be excluding anybody who is currently using the area, and certainly not excluding the volleyball areas or any other current activity at 105th Street.
That sounds fantastic. Thank you, Margaret. Okay, open for questions for anybody from Parks. Margaret, Steve, Matt, Wesley? No, is there anybody in participants?
I'm looking, but I see Doug just raised his hand as well.
Oh, Doug, sorry about that. Doug,
Oh, no, I just put it up. Just two quick questions. I have been observing quite a bit, some kids and adults, and they're having a great time, and it breaks my heart, but like around 74th, 75th and Riverside Park, playing soccer and ultimate frisbee, and it just looks like they're tearing the heck out of the grass. And I know, again, I love to see them having a good time, but it concerns me that there's no real enforcement of it. And it's also a lot of dogs in there. The signage is rather limited. And I just wondered if there's a way to, discourage that.
Maybe this is a question for Wes, the park manager, Wesley Hamilton.
Hi, good evening, Doug. How you doing? Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yes.
So we do have some signs. We'll look into maybe doing some more signage, and we can also talk with PEP. I believe PEP can work around in that area, 74th and 75th, and we can see what we can do about that. I mean, there is multiple issues there, as you mentioned, but and we always try to educate park users first. So we'll see what we can do with our PEP enforcement, and maybe even improvement, maybe adding some additional signage. We can look into that.
Great, thank you. And my just slight follow-up, I may have asked this before. This may be a DOT question, but on the curb cut at 74th, there's a couple of ADA curb cuts, and then there's one that is not. And I've noticed some elderly people, including my mom, having some difficulty. Are there any plans to make them all ADA compliant? And is that something within your jurisdiction, or is that something that we should just bring up at DOT?
If it's on the park side of the Riverside Drive, it is our jurisdiction, and we're aware of the problems there with some of those curb cuts, and we're looking for funding to try to address that. I mean, it's not just that it's not fully compliant, it's also, there's standing water there, there's kind of areas of settlement and everything. That pavement is over 20 years old and the hex tends to settle. So we are aware of it, and we're actively looking for funding to address those.
Thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions for anybody? Ken?
Yeah. I just 2 blocks south of where Doug was talking about. I noticed you finally we finished the spending of what we called the brewer money, which is the detour of the bike path. So it's now not conflicting with the Little League players, and goes on the south side of the flagpole. And it was really done well. Excellent. It's a joy to ride on. I'm sorry I wasn't the first cyclist to ride on it, Steve. But
I'm sorry I didn't invite you.
Yeah.
But did you thank Margaret for all the work she did to design that project?
Thank you, Margaret.
Well, thanks for your thanks, but I didn't design it. Thank you,
You-
Benson Butts.
You oversaw the design.
No, I was a minor player.
Oh,
Do you have any doubt that if it had gone badly, you wouldn't have been blamed? So if you're going to get the blame, then take the credit.
No, please, Margaret is blameless.
But I just had a question. I noticed there's a gap in the striping between where you come down the hill on the detour and you join the waterfront path. Let's say people are going south. And there's about a 30 or 40 foot gap in the striping, and then it resumes in the new section. So is there any plan to join those two parts with striping?
We actually we're still doing work on the Greenway portion as part of the phase 6 construction. So I think the plan is to add additional striping, but I'll confirm.
Great.
You mean at the bottom of the ramp by the concession or further south?
For this would be, let's say you're going south on the detour and you're going past the stairs that go up to 72nd Street.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get down to the waterfront path. And you make a left as a cyclist. And then there's a bit
no, that area is still is just now going into construction. I mean, the whole 59th Street area will be reconfigured as part of phase 6 construction. So that is a work in progress. Yes.
Okay. Great.
Okay, anybody else?
And Margaret, there is sometime soon, we're going to have to do a detour around 59th Street with some work going on underneath the highway, maybe?
Correct. I don't have the exact dates for that, but we're doing work on the downspouts. The downspouts from the Henry Hudson Parkway are actually a little bit too low to allow emergency vehicles through that area. So we're having to elevate them. So there will be a brief closure to do that work, and the bike paths will be rerouted through the park as we've done in the past. So we'll make sure that we notify you about that.
If I can add to that as well, if I'm not mistaken, I believe DOT was going to be trying to do the majority of that work after 7 p.m. and before 6 p.m. as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Wes. Yeah, that's correct. It's all of the work will be done overnight, in the evening and over past midnight.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, then. Thank you very, very much. Dan, if you're still there, thank you for making the presentation. Steve, Margaret, it was wonderful to see you. And Wesley and Matt, as always, thank you. We're going to go on to new business. So does anybody have any? Okay, Susan.
I just want to mention a very sad thing that I know people know about the brush fires in the north end of Central Park about a week and a half ago, but apparently last night there were 3 brush fires set in the Ramble. This is really upsetting. You all know I'm an active birder. This is really scary. It's just, I have no words. I just want to let people know about this.
If I may, Susan, the ones that were reported in the north part of the park, there was an allegation that they were set, that they weren't naturally occurring. Is it your understanding that's the same in the Ramble?
Yes, exactly.
I thought they caught the person who did that out of state.
I hadn't heard that.
I read that there were some fire sets up somewhere else, and they matched something and they found that guy.
Yeah. Well, regardless, I mean, it's the birding community and the rest of the park users are very upset because it's really scary. I know I view the park as one of the last safe havens I can go to for comfort. And, the helicopters are overhead. And now there are fires, and it's pretty scary and pretty upsetting. Sad to share this news, but I just thought people should know about it.
Really? Yeah.
We should ask Deputy Inspector Gallagher what he knows about both.
Yeah, I've been in touch with him. I haven't heard anything back yet. It's just upsetting beyond. I didn't see it today in the Ramble and this evening in the Ramble myself, but I've spoken to people who've seen it. It's just beyond upsetting.
I'll say. Okay, if nobody else has any new business, I would like to suggest that based on what Roberta just brought to us, what our next job is regarding our district needs, I wondered if there's anybody here who feels comfortable reaching out to one of our electeds or anybody else to try to find out what they feel our most pressing needs are, as she had suggested to us. Is there anybody who would like to volunteer to reach out to somebody? Well,
I'm not on your committee, but I'd be glad to help.
okay, that would be lovely, Mark. That would be great.
And Barbara, you don't want the chairs to do that? You think that should be something that?
I
another committee does?
absolutely think it should be something that the committee reaches out to various people to find out. Last year, Natasha and I did it all ourselves, and it's an onerous task. You know, it's like what I said to Roberta. As far as I'm concerned, we're still involved with that. It all hasn't been settled yet, and now we're into another year. So it took a long time, and so. You know, if anybody's friendly with one of the electeds and wanted to ask them, I know that there's somebody from Gail Brewer's office who has asked to come to our meeting. I was hoping he would be here tonight to actually discuss this, because I think that is what he wants to discuss, but I'll reach out to him and find out.
Barbara, I'd be happy to talk to Gail's office or to Gail.
Oh, okay, I just said that, but yeah, she has somebody in her office who wanted to come to us to discuss it. I don't remember his name offhand. Natasha.
Barbara, was it Leo or was it Eddie?
I think it was Leo.
I think it was
think
Leo.
so too. Yeah.
Leo.
Yeah, you had made the introduction to Natasha and myself that he wanted to. Yes, so I think we should reach out to Leo. Yeah.
I think it would be a good idea to have him or somebody else come over and just talk to the committee about their perspective.
I agree. So why don't we put him on for next month? We don't need our answers until June. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
Does anybody happen to know a parent from any of the PTA associations, especially like Frederick Douglass or one of the parks that was high on our list to fund? No?
Absolutely. From
Yeah, and
Yale.
I'm happy to help with that too. I know
Yeah.
people, so.
You do? That would be really great if you could bring a name back to us in the next couple of months and ask them if they would be willing to write a letter about how one of the playgrounds, especially those that are used by the various projects.
Well, this committee actually helped start one of them. So a few years ago. So we know plenty of people. Bloomingdale Playground.
Oh, okay. Well, fantastic. Okay. That'll be great.
And that's just one. There are plenty of others, but that's.
Especially those that were on our district needs list high up. And it was Frederick Douglass first, and it was, oh, Natasha, what playground was second? Do you remember?
By any chance, was it Saul Bloom?
Yeah, it was Saul Bloom. Thank you very much. Excellent. Thank you. Yeah. So those are the two primary ones.
Well, Saul Bloom is right next to PS 145 and no, I'm sorry, it's right next to PS
84.
84, right.
84.
Yeah.
I keep wanting to say it's 92, but it's on 92nd Street and it's 80. Yeah. Yeah, we know YEL knows those folks pretty well, and it sounds like Elizabeth knows them too. So,
all right. Well, any help would be appreciated. Ken, did you have something, or you hand raised from before?
It's residual. So I took it down.
Okay, well.
But Barbara, if I could interrupt for a moment, I may not have picked up on what you were suggesting, but if what you're asking is that people write letters in June, that would be too late for this coming fiscal year. You should
no, it's for next fiscal year.
Yeah, I know, but the budget for that fiscal year will be adopted in June. So if letters.
No, Steve, we're talking about 24.
Right.
Oh, 24.
We're working on 24 already. Before you came on tonight,
I'm sorry.
We had a presentation from our budget committee,
Okay.
And we were told to get to work.
Oh,
So
okay. All
trying
right,
to
I'm sorry.
do some homework.
All right, well, I'm sort of hoping that maybe some of these things will get funded in the FY23 budget. So there'll be you won't have to lobby for them for FY24. But we'll see how things turn out.
Okay, great. William Ortiz was not here tonight. It was his turn to take the minutes, so I took them. His turn will be next month, followed, I think, by Natasha. Did you take the minutes? Yeah, I think it'll be your turn. And then,
Sure.
and then Susan, and then Polly, but I'll remind you as it comes up. So if nobody has any other things, this might be the shortest 15.
I have one quick thing. It's super quick, and it's just
Okay.
for everyone on the board. Just wanted to remind people, and Ken, I know this was an issue you had mentioned at the steering committee. We are hosting a meeting of the return to in-person hybrid virtual meetings Monday night, the 28th, so a week from tonight at 6:30. We want to make sure every board member knows about that. Details are on the website as well as an agenda. If you have any questions, you can ask me. It's part of the task force work. We'd love any of you to come and contribute your thoughts to that meeting or send them online. There is a portal online where you can submit comments anonymously. So we've done our best to get that out to the public. If anyone, the 8 attendees from the public who are on this call tonight, we want to make sure you know about that. And we're doing our due diligence to make sure that everyone knows about the meeting before it occurs 1 week from tonight. Thank you.
And Elizabeth, does the listing warn people that a resolution may come out of it?
It says there's a time for task force discussion at the end of the meeting, which is typically what we do at the end of our meetings when somebody wants to propose a resolution.
Okay. I just thought I'd mention that.
The meeting will be 90 minutes. So we're asking people to be very brief, and they will be granted 2 minutes of testimony as well as community members and board members. And then we'll discuss next steps, including the possibility of a resolution.
Right. When the governor extended this, what her spokesperson called a final extension, the spokesperson said that the governor is now looking to amend the open meetings law to allow for virtual meetings. So that's
all right.
helpful.
So it should be a very fruitful discussion. I don't want to take any more time tonight during the PNE meeting, but just wanted to make sure everyone on this call knew about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Okay, so I think if Steve, I just want to make sure from you, no resolution was necessary for the presentation.
Right,
Okay,
correct,
fine.
correct. But
Okay.
if you haven't already done so, did Matt and Wes, did they give any kind of reports?
No, not really a report. They answered some questions.
What maybe they have some additional stuff to report on, or maybe not, I don't know.
I mean, I don't have too much to report on, but Steve, you might know more on this. We're hoping at So Bloom, which was mentioned tonight, the MPPA has been under construction by the SCA. So, hopefully that project will finish up soon, and that'll be open for the community to use. And the basketball court there, the single basketball court there is already funded for capital projects. So when you guys are looking at what to fund, it would only be the playground and comfort station that would end up needing to be redone at Soul Bloom.
Well, I am trying to get a report from the SCA on the status of the of I guess what you might call the schoolyard project, of what we call the multi-purpose play area. And unfortunately, I don't have that at this point. But as soon as I do, I will report back to the board and to the Parents Association, which is very interested in what's going on.
So, and I think it was last month that we, had talked about issues at Theodore Roosevelt and dogs on the lawns. Enforcement has continued. We've heard from some people at Theodore Roosevelt Park in the community that it has been helpful.
Very helpful.
So, and I know Commissioner Castro is staying in communication with PEP and making sure as the weather gets nicer that enforcement and checking up on that part of the park will continue.
Yeah, that's great. No, I heard that it has been extremely effective, so that's wonderful.
So I think those are really the only updates I have. So
Okay.
if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Wesley, you have anything?
Not at this time. I think we're pretty good. We got a cherry walk and the DOT working down at the Riverside South. So no other new updates from me at this time.
Okay, then do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you all for coming to one of the shortest parks meetings I have ever been on. So good night, everybody.
All right, Ken, keep that bike in good shape.
I've got several, Steve, so.
Okay, good. All right, as long as you have one in reserve.
That's right.
Thanks,
Nice to see
everybody.
you.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.